Welcome back to Fox 5's On the Hill. We are looking ahead to the 2025 year and President-elect Donald Trump's second term. What are some of the sweeping changes that Trump will enact on day one? I want to welcome back in our panel. David Goodfriend is a Democratic strategist and president of I Street Advocates, and Keith Nahigian is a Republican strategist and president of Nahigian Strategies. We should reference before the break, we were talking about, what Trump will do at the beginning. I'm curious, and you referenced Bernie Sanders. Where are Democrats in this moment right now as they head into 2025? Are they trying to figure this out? We have seen a struggle, maybe a generational struggle. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez looking like she wants to try to upend Jerry Connolly on the House Oversight Committee. Where are Democrats right now in this moment?
Well, I think right now we're seeing some unity in the belief that you won, congratulations, it's your show, and we're not going to say anything about these nominees, or we're not going to try to upset the apple cart, but when they're in place, we're going to hold them to account. That's one kind of line of thinking. I have heard Senator Sanders say, Donald Trump said he's going to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. And if he means it, I want to work with him on that. So I think you have this duality in the Democratic Party right now over, standing on the sideline saying, you own it, and I'm going to criticize you every time you make a mistake, versus, okay, I can pick things out that seem rational and reasonable I want to work with. Watch the election of the DNC chair. That's what I'm doing when I want to understand sort of where the party wants to take this. You have sort of an establishment candidate from Minnesota, the chair of the Minnesota Democratic Party. And then right next door, you've got Ben Wickler in Wisconsin, who really successfully ran the Wisconsin Democratic Party and wants to take over nationally and do the same thing nationally. What the Democrats on the inside decide on that race will be, I think, a preview of what we got coming.
A lot of times when a party is swept into power in all three branches, the House, the Senate, the White House, everybody tends to think they're all one big happy family. Already it's pretty clear that's not necessarily always the case when you look at some of these cabinet nominees, Keith. So as we head into the new year, how big are some of these battles going to be between the White House and the Senate on confirming Trump's cabinet?
I think his cabinet's going to get through just fine. I think there's some posturing right now of people. Remember, he's kind of a threat to a lot of the establishment, and establishment is where their money comes from. So if you have big pharma in your state, if you have other things in your state, you have to make some noise and can't just roll over. But he's going to get the cabinet he wants. I would go look back. What we were talking about earlier is when this is one of the first elections that there hasn't been big controversy. We had the Bush recount. We had when Trump won, people didn't think he was legit. When Biden won, they didn't think he was legit. And I think the calmness and the quiet right now is really great. There's not a million ladies flying into Washington with pink hats. There's not the Tea Party running around. I think there's a sense of let's solve the big problems. I think there's a uniqueness right now of working together because they have been kicking the can down the field on a lot of big things they have to work together on. It's been election to election, let's punt, let's punt, let's punt, and I think there's an opportunity to work together.
David, when you talk about who's coming in to lead the Democratic Party, are they already looking forward to 2 years from now, the midterms?
Oh, sure. I think the House is in a razor-thin majority right now. No one can argue that there's a massive majority of Republicans that are going to call the shots. I mean, historically what's happened is the Freedom Caucus will vote against the budget bill, and the Republican leader will go to beg to Democrats to please get it over the line to fund the government. I'm not sure that's going to happen this time around. I mean, there are a lot of grumpy Democrats who don't want to help, right? And that's a razor-thin margin. So I think there's some mystery and some uncertainty about what's going to happen, but Democrats are eyeing the retaking of the House in the midterms, absolutely, and it's doable. But the Senate is a tougher map. The Senate, I think, Democrats are hopeful, but it's still a tough map for Democrats. Watch the House races and the recruiting that's going on. Will they recruit great candidates in these swing districts in the House to kind of pull back and get a Democratic majority? I think that'll tell us a lot about what's coming.
Keith, the first time Donald Trump took the oath of office, there was still a group in the United States Congress who was resistant to him amongst the Republican caucus. That seems to have disappeared now. As he moves into this second term, is he in a better position politically now than he was the first time he was in the White House?
He's the strongest, the most popular he's ever been, which is unusual to be, after a term, to be more popular after a break. So I think that's very unusual. I think, again, going back to the silence of resistance, normally at this time it was, interview after interview with member of Congress that wasn't going to the inaugural, that was boycotting this, boycotting that. There's nothing right now. I think there's on the Democrat side, there's kind of a messaging desert they're going through right now, trying to reconnect with their voters. What are the main issues? They need to probably work together on things that everyone agreed on, immigration, the inflation thing. I think they're going to work together on some of these big things, and then we'll see after that where it goes. But I think they will work together, because I think our debt is a really big problem that wasn't talked about on this last race. And also, one of the issues that was ignored, but was, I think, one of the deciding issues was health. It wasn't health care, it wasn't health costs, it was health. And the RFK factor was really a big piece in that, of bringing a lot of people over to the Trump side. And I think that's going to be a really unique dynamic of the first year.
One of the things that people have been talking about, though, is whether or not Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the person to be leading the nation's health care policy. You said that, you know, a lot of Democrats maybe are kind of okay to sit back a little bit. Do you think that that nomination's in trouble?
Do I think that nomination's in trouble? Well, certainly the pharmaceutical industry is going to try to mount some resistance to it. But again, I think that that's inside baseball on the Republican side. There are plenty of Republicans who are not comfortable with the RFK nomination. Will they stand up to it? I mean, I defer to my colleague, I'll say it correctly this time, not my client, my colleague from the Republican Party, to sort of expound on that. What I do think we're going to see, though, is the reference to RFK is important. There is a populism in the President-elect's victory, and people have to see results. Will they see results? They're going to be calling you guys to account every time, and I think we'll learn a lot in the next couple months.
David, Keith, we thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.